Welcome to Last Dawn Stories channel. In my previous life, I won a $50 million lottery, taking home $40 million after taxes. I didn't enjoy the wealthy lifestyle for long before the apocalypse arrived. Betrayed by my boyfriend, who sold me for a mere cookie, I met a gruesome end amidst a horde of zombies. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself standing in front of a bank, clutching the $50 million winning lottery ticket. The vivid memory of being devoured by zombies was still fresh in my mind, leaving my heart pounding with fear. Once I calmed down, I walked briskly past the bank and headed to a nearby restaurant, where I ordered a simple egg fried rice. The taste of the rice and eggs was so delicious that it felt surreal, especially since I hadn't eaten rice in 3 months during the apocalypse, a period which coincidentally was also the duration of my survival, eating the delicious fried rice. I unexpectedly found myself moved to tears. Nobody knew that before the apocalypse, fried rice was my least favorite dish because I disliked its fishy taste. After leaving the restaurant, I went to a supermarket and bought several costumes, randomly choosing one to wear when I went to the bank to claim my prize. After taxes, I received exactly $40 million. This time, I didn't call my boyfriend. Instead, I simply sent him a message: "Let's break up, I wish you and Kathy happiness." It was only after the apocalypse in my previous life that I learned of my boyfriend's affair with his secretary. He probably would have broken up with me sooner if he hadn't known about the $50 million. After sending the message, I checked the date. There were only 20 days left until the apocalypse. I needed to act quickly. This time, my sole desire was to survive well. I spent $20 million to buy a 3-story villa in a suburban area. The location was primarily in a villa district, which compared to high-rise residential buildings had fewer people and, consequently, fewer zombies, increasing my chances of survival. I inquired about the building materials of the villa. All were notably sturdy, with a deep foundation and good geology. Even so, I remained anxious. I hired the best local renovation company to replace all windows with bulletproof glass from banks and apply a one-way thermal film so no one could see inside. After all, the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse isn't the zombies, it's human nature. Moreover, I had the villa's exterior walls soundproofed with the best materials available, as zombies are attracted by noise. According to the current pace, the renovations would take about 20 days, but I was anxious and told the company manager that it had to be done within 10 days, regardless of the cost. When the manager asked why I was in such a rush, I explained that the villa was a surprise for my family, who were coming to visit in 10 days. I wasn't lying. Before the apocalypse in my previous life, my family was indeed coming to visit, and I had wanted to surprise them. Unfortunately, the virus outbreak occurred while they were en route, and I never learned what happened to them. So this time, I had already called my family, telling them how much I missed them and wanted them to come and stay for a while. I had even purchased tickets for the earliest flight available. Now, my family hadn't arrived yet, and the house was still under renovation, but I couldn't just sit idle. During the day, while supervising the workers, I checked for any deficiencies and hired a few more workers to install solar panels on my villa. A few days after the apocalypse, the power system collapsed, leading to a nationwide blackout. I had the entire top floor of the villa sealed off by professionals. Since it's only about 10 meters high, it would be too vulnerable if someone tried to enter from there. I couldn't risk that. I also sealed all the balconies and fitted them with burglar-proof windows and bulletproof glass. Besides that, I made a trip to the hardware store and replaced all the locks in the villa with the most secure ones available, equivalent to those used in banks, especially the outermost door of the villa, which I replaced with a vault-level door and added 2 more doors. Now, one would have to open 3 doors to get in from outside. Only after installing several door stoppers did I feel somewhat relieved. Once I was satisfied with the quality and speed of the work done by the professionals, I went to a forest shop and bought a high-quality SUV and an RV. In case the villa couldn't hold up and we needed to escape, then I drove the SUV to a nearby supermarket. I bought 5 bags of rice, 5 bags of flour, 5 barrels of cooking oil, a box of salt totaling 24 bags, a box of vinegar with 12 bottles, a box of soy sauce with 12 bottles, a box of sesame oil with 24 bottles, and 20 packs of purified water, each containing 24 bottles. I also picked up 10 boxes of instant noodles in various flavors, 10 boxes of bread, 5 bags of sunflower seeds, 10 packs of various puffed snacks, and 20 packs of assorted chocolates, candies, and self-heating hot pots. I kept shopping until my SUV could no longer fit anything else. On the way home, I stopped by a pharmacy to buy some medicines. Due to strict pandemic regulations, I couldn't buy much at once, so I planned to visit a few more stores. In the evening, after the renovation workers had left, I secretly moved all the goods from the car into the villa. Keeping such a large stock of supplies during the apocalypse could be a ticking time bomb if the word got out. Finally, on the 10th day, the villa renovation was complete. That day, my parents came over with my sister. When we got home, I didn't hide anything and told my family that the apocalypse was imminent and we needed to prepare. Unfortunately, they didn't believe me. "Child, stop joking around," my mother said, looking worried as she felt my forehead. "You're not hot, no fever." "Mom, I'm not joking. If you don't believe me, just wait. Tonight, the old man at the east end of our village will pass away." Upon hearing this, my parents looked upset and scolded. "What nonsense are you talking about? Spit it out. The old man is in great health. We just saw him working in the fields a few days ago." I didn't argue with my parents. They would see I was telling the truth tonight. In my previous life, my parents said they'd come to see me after finishing their farm work, but just before they were supposed to arrive, my mother called to say the old man at the village's east end had died after falling down a slope while working in the fields, passing away in the hospital that same night. Life is unpredictable, and the next second can always catch us off guard. During dinner, my mother cooked a large spread of delicious dishes that were very nostalgic. "Child, eat more, you look like you've lost weight. Must be tough struggling in the big city," she said lovingly as she served me more food, while my father looked at me tenderly. "It's okay." I was interrupted mid-sentence by the ringing of a phone. My father stood up and fished out his phone from his pocket. "I'll take this call, you guys eat," he said and went to the balcony. When he came back, his expression was serious. "What's wrong? Who was that on the phone?" As my mother nonchalantly served vegetables to my sister and me, she casually asked, "Did you hear from the old man at the east end of the village? His eldest son called, said the old man passed away tonight." My mother's face registered shock as the meat from her chopsticks tumbled unnoticed. In response, my father silently pulled out a cigarette and lit it. "Countdown to the apocalypse. 9 days remain. Time is running out and supplies are far from adequate." As soon as daylight broke, I bought a brand new heavy-duty trailer and prepared for a long trip to gather supplies. Buying too much from local supermarkets might raise suspicions, and recent renovations had made stockpiling difficult. But now, with no constraints and my father by my side, who had experience with semi-trailers and long-haul driving, the heavy trailer was no big deal for him. We drove straight to a large supermarket in another city. This time, I didn't even enter the shopping area. I directly contacted the supermarket manager. I told him we were planning to donate supplies to children in the mountains and, due to tight schedules and factory delays, we had to purchase directly from his supermarket. Overwhelmed with joy, the manager didn't suspect a thing. After reviewing our list, he immediately arranged for the goods to be loaded onto our trailer. I held nothing back: grains, oils, snacks, instant heat meals, purified water, soft drinks, whatever was in stock, I took. Although perishables like meat and dairy were hard to store, I still ordered some and called my mother to buy additional freezers to keep these items fresh, along with some kitchenware. While loading, my father noticed some nutritious soil and seeds for fruits and vegetables in a corner of the warehouse, which we also purchased along with several water purifiers. We emptied most of the supermarket stock by the time our trailer was fully loaded. "Let's also buy some clothes and blankets to fill the gaps," I suggested, considering the extreme and unpredictable weather post-apocalypse. My father agreed. We ended up purchasing 16 blankets, 10 down jackets, 10 cotton suits, plus 15 electric fans, 15 heaters, 15 heated blankets, and 60 packs each of hand warmers and cool patches before calling it quits. When we drove back to the city, it was 1 a.m., quiet and peaceful. Due to the size of the heavy trailer, we had to carefully transport the goods in smaller batches into the villa area through the night. By dawn, we had nearly finished, leaving the rest for my mother and sister to handle slowly over the next nights. After resting in the afternoon, my father and I set out in a smaller truck to a nearby city, where we smoothly purchased more household items, entertainment goods, and self-defense weapons. Household items included 200 toothbrushes, 100 kilograms of toilet paper, 100 boxes of sanitary pads, 20 bottles of shampoo, 30 bars of soap, 20 bottles of shower gel, 10 bottles of laundry detergent, 10 bags of washing powder, 100 towels, 20 wash basins, 20 large buckets, and 6 mats, plus 50 sets of clothes for each season per person. Entertainment items comprised 300 power banks, 3 laptops, 2 projectors, 3 cameras, 4 telescopes, 5 drones, 3 small speakers, 60 flashlights, 50 comic books, 200 sets of watercolor paints, 1,000 sheets of rice paper, 50 novels, 3 chess sets, 2 mahjong sets, and 5 sets of playing cards and tic-tac-toe. For self-defense, we bought 5 scissors, 10 kitchen knives, 5 hammers, 5 maces, 5 nunchucks, 10 toy guns, 10 bows, several fireworks and crackers, 50 fire extinguishers, and 200 liters of gasoline. Upon returning to the villa after a day and a night, my mother and sister had moved all the remaining supplies inside. The second and third floors of the villa were packed with goods. It was still nighttime, quiet all around, as our family busily sorted everything. This time, since the truck was smaller than before, we managed to organize everything before dawn. Later that day, my father and I visited a local wholesale market. But we didn't buy much due to fear of arousing suspicion and because our house could barely accommodate more, so we bought only about as much as other merchants. On the way back, my phone rang unexpectedly, and to my surprise, it was my ex-boyfriend calling. I had forgotten to block him. "Why aren't you answering?" my dad asked curiously as he drove. "He's asking for money. He hasn't even paid back what he previously owed," I replied, and simultaneously hung up the phone. Finally adding him to the blacklist. "Oh, it's better to keep distance from such people, they can lead to losses," my father advised. Indeed, I mused bitterly, he was too cunning, and I was too naive. Even after he cheated, I foolishly thought I was still the only one for him. Looking back now, it seems utterly ridiculous. Countdown to the apocalypse, 3 days left. We've nearly finished gathering supplies. We have enough food and drink to last our family of 4 for 3 to 4 years. And besides, my father has planted plenty of vegetables and fruits on the balcony, which should help us sustain if they grow well. For now, my biggest concern is safety, Dad. From what I've observed these past few days, the neighboring villas are currently unoccupied, some even for rent. What do you think about renting them? After pondering for a moment, my father said, "It's feasible, but do we even have enough money for that?" "Don't worry about the money, we have it," I said with a confident smile. I soon regretted buying a villa in full cash right after the purchase. Why pay all at once, especially with the apocalypse looming? Who would chase me for mortgage payments then? Recognizing my mistake, I mortgaged the villa I had just bought outright to the bank for a loan of $12 million. Banks generally lend up to 60% of the property value. With that money, I rented 3 neighboring villas, each costing $100,000 per month. Totaling $300,000 for a month. I only rented 3 because one villa was for sale and hadn't been sold yet. For safety, I reluctantly made a down payment of $10 million to purchase it. After handling these matters, I still felt uneasy, so I bought 20 pinhole cameras and placed them in hidden corners around the 4 villas. After all, the apocalypse wouldn't shut down the internet immediately. Checking the time, there was a little over a day left until the apocalypse. Not knowing the exact start time of the doomsday, to be on the safe side, our family unanimously decided to stay indoors. But even inside the villa, we remained busy. While the water and electricity were still running, we charged all our electronic devices and filled every container with water. We also watered all the fruits and vegetables my father had recently planted. With the remaining time, each of us downloaded our favorite videos, novels, comics, or single-player games to pass the long, anxious days ahead in the post-apocalyptic world. At 9 in the morning, I was abruptly awakened by my sister. "Sis, wake up, you need to look outside," she said, her face stricken with fear as she pointed out the window. "What's outside?" I rubbed my eyes. I had just worked an overnight shift and hadn't slept much. I glanced outside. The sky was a murky gray, the clouds hung low and oppressive, as if it were about to rain. Something felt wrong. I jumped up and double-checked that all the doors and windows of the villa were securely locked before I felt a bit relieved. I grabbed my phone to check the weather. It read, "Sunny today, with temperatures at 34 degrees centigrade. I looked at my phone, then back at the weather outside. "Nana, tell your sister, what did you just see?" I asked her gravely. "Sis, you might not believe this, but the sky was clear just moments ago. then suddenly it turned red, and I couldn't see anything. After that, it became like this. Nana's voice trembled, clearly shaken by the experience. I listened intently, growing increasingly alarmed. This day had indeed come. In my previous life, I vaguely remembered that it had rained just before the apocalypse started, followed by the emergence of numerous zombies, though the rest was unclear. After comforting my sister, we informed our parents about what had happened, which was met with a collective silence. After the silence, I decided to check my phone again for any new updates. Surprisingly, there was something shocking. The sky had mysteriously turned red at 8:56 this morning. It was a video, only a few seconds long, but it matched exactly what Nana had described. The video quickly went viral. Turning off my phone, I picked up a pair of binoculars to get a better look outside. Since we were in a villa area, there were hardly any people around. However, it had started to rain. Suddenly, a horrific roar broke the silence. "Run, someone has turned into a monster. Please, open the door. Save me, husband. Please don't leave me behind. Ah, help, ah." Panic erupted among the people outside the villa. Through the binoculars, I saw a robust man running towards us, carrying a child. Both were wrapped tightly in raincoats. Trailing behind them were two zombies, fresh blood still dripping from their mouths, evidently having just fed. In the early days of the apocalypse, zombies were not very fast, but they had great stamina. Clearly, the man was running out of strength, his pace noticeably slowing. The child, overwhelmed by fear, wailed in agony, "Daddy, where's Mommy? Why isn't she coming? I want Mommy, woo-woo." As the zombies drew closer, attracted by the noise and more of them gathering, the man suddenly stopped, hesitated, and with his body trembling, he set the child down and ran forward without looking back. The child, watching the approaching zombies, cried out in terror, calling for his father, but soon his voice faded, until they disappeared. I watched helplessly, heart-aching yet powerless. The true apocalypse, after all, is far more terrifying than this spectacle. I put down the binoculars and warned my family not to respond or open the door no matter who knocked or what they said. Naive compassion is a dangerous indulgence in these times, harmful to oneself and others. Fortunately, my family understood and nodded in agreement. At 12:20, the rain seemed to stop. However, the number of zombies wandering outside visibly increased. Turning on my phone, the screen was flooded with messages about the apocalypse's onset. Opening a popular short video app, I was immediately bombarded with clips of zombies biting people and spreading the infection. The comments section was filled with wails of despair, a truly dismal scene. At night, the entire city had fallen, with streets swarming with zombies. Thankfully, the water and electricity were still functioning normally. On my phone, the trending news featured an official government response advising everyone to stay indoors and wait for rescue. I trust the government but also believe that the majority of people won't make it until help arrives. Now, in the heat of summer, it's hard to keep food fresh, especially since most people aren't in the habit of stockpiling supplies. I suspect that most people's current supplies won't last more than 5 days. After that, many will venture out in search of more. I sighed deeply. Thankfully, before the apocalypse, our family had stockpiled enough supplies to avoid risking our lives by going outside. Our first meal on the first night of the apocalypse was dumplings made by my mother, filled with pork and green onions. Delicious, though a bit salty, I thought to myself, accidentally voicing it out loud, which turned me into the target of my family's teasing. "Next time, you cook, so I can taste your cooking," my mother said with a smile. My sister grimaced, recalling some unpleasant memories. "Mom, please no, with my sister's cooking skills, I don't think it's too salty, it tastes just right," my father said, helping himself to a large bowl of dumplings, adding more vinegar and peeling a couple of garlic cloves. All right, maybe I spoke too soon. I chose to remain silent and continued eating quietly. Damn, it really was delicious. Thus, we were thrust into life during the apocalypse. In the first 3 days, whenever I finished my shift and had nothing else to do, I would use my binoculars to observe the zombies, hoping to discover their weaknesses, but each time, I was profoundly disappointed. Zombies apparently don't need to rest, roaming tirelessly on the streets, rooftops, balconies, and other people's cars day and night. On the 4th day of the apocalypse, I discovered the first intruders in the villa I was renting. Interestingly, that day I had abandoned watching the zombies to switch to the surveillance room. As soon as I entered, I spotted several figures flashing across the camera feed in the villa directly in front of me. which instantly made my hair stand on end. I held my breath, my heart pounding like thunder. The surveillance footage showed roughly 3 people, 2 men around 180 cm tall and a woman about 165 cm. They were all rather slender, not particularly muscular, and unarmed. For now, they pose no threat to us. Still, I can't let my guard down. It's just that the silhouettes of 2 figures on the monitor look uncannily familiar. Watching their backs, I find myself involuntarily raising my arm, just as I wonder if I might know them. They turn their heads towards the pinhole camera as if to clear my doubts. The moment I see their faces, my pupils shrink in shock. Leo, Kathy, no wonder I felt such a strong surge of anger towards them earlier. It turns out they're the treacherous couple who fooled me in my past life, leading me to be deceived and ultimately killed by zombies. I tremble with rage and frustration at the memory. After observing for 2 days, I realize that the couple has brought very few supplies, pitifully few in fact. It just goes to show, what goes around comes around. Now, besides my shifts, I find my greatest pleasure in heading to the surveillance room. On the 6th day after the apocalypse, I find there's no water when I try to wash up in the morning. The temperature outside is bizarrely high, probably hot enough to fry an egg instantly on the concrete sidewalk. Humanity takes another step towards extinction. Inside the surveillance room, despite the electric fan working hard, the heat remains unbearable. The scorching temperature nearly clouds my judgment, and I quickly drink a large gulp of water to stay alert. If this continues, I feel like I might start hallucinating. 5 days later, the outdoor temperature shows no sign of dropping, and we've already used up nearly a quarter of our stock of cooling patches. Irritated by the heat, I stick cooling patches on my forehead and cheeks, but soon they feel less cool. I peel off the patches and wipe the sweat from my face, weakly staring at the monitor. On the screen, Leo, Kathy, and another man are sprawled on the floor, resembling 3 fish stranded on a beach, their mouths opening and closing as they struggle to breathe. I'm so captivated by the sight that I almost fall off my chair. The sudden jolt brings me back to reality. There are no stranded fish, but the 3 are indeed gasping. They seem to be saying something, but unfortunately, I can't hear a word. I regret not installing a microphone with the surveillance system. As I strain to guess what they're saying from their lip movements, my mother suddenly opens my room door. "Winnie, dinner's ready." Startled, I come to my senses as my stomach growls with hunger. I stand up, touching my rumbling stomach, and reply, "Coming right away." In the dining room, due to the heat, we have placed 6 fans around us. Perhaps because of the fans blowing air simultaneously, it doesn't feel as hot. The temperature these past few days has been frighteningly high. Today feels even hotter than before. My father says while peeling shrimp and wiping his sweat with a towel. "Last night during my shift, I noticed there are more zombies outside. Seems like the heat doesn't affect them at all. By the way, how are those 3 people in the villa doing?" As my father speaks, he turns to me with a worried look on his sunken, dark face. I look up to reply, but am surprised to see the shallow, dark hollows under his eyes. Recalling how busy he has been these past few days, suddenly, I feel a twinge of guilt and regret for having told him about the intruders. They're still in the villa for now. I begin to explain. "There's no major movement at the moment," I said as I played with the rice in my bowl, pausing before adding, "Dad, don't worry, our doors and windows are reinforced. They currently pose no threat to us." "Winnie's right," my mother said as she served more food to my father. "You should go to bed after dinner. Stop worrying so much every day. In these times, having good health is more important than anything." I noticed the red corners of my mother's eyes, a sign of her concern for my father. "Dad, I agree with Mom, you should rest after dinner. Don't worry about the vegetable seedlings, I'll take care of them after we eat." My sister, noticing our father's exhaustion, joined us in comforting him. "Dad, Mom and Nana are right, go rest after dinner. I'll keep an eye on the surveillance, so there won't be any mistakes." With our persistent urging, Dad finally gave in and went to rest after the meal. After dinner, when I returned to my room, my heart pounded fiercely, and my body trembled. It was during the meal that I suddenly remembered something that everyone had overlooked. How exactly did Kathy and the others get into the villa? As far as I knew, before the apocalypse, the security in this villa complex was among the top 3 in the city. Although I had rented the villa, I hadn't changed the locks. They shouldn't have been able to enter so easily. With my eyes closed, I racked my brain, wondering how to unlock the villa door while avoiding zombie attacks. Could they have some other secret weapon? The thought shocked me, bringing forth terrifying images in my mind. I was drenched in cold sweat, my shirt sticking uncomfortably to my back. When I opened my eyes, I realized that wasn't the most suffocating part. The truly suffocating moment came when I looked up at the surveillance monitor and noticed that the image of the 3 people stranded like fish had disappeared. I quickly accessed all the surveillance footage of the villa, but there was no trace of them. They had vanished mysteriously, as if evaporated from the earth. Maybe they went back to their rooms, I guessed internally, my palms sweating uncontrollably. They must have gone back, I reassured myself. When I had installed the cameras, I only put them in the living room and hallway for convenience. The rest of the rooms in the villa were blind spots, not covered by the cameras. They must have opened the doors to other rooms, I comforted myself. To confirm my thoughts, I watched the surveillance for another 30 minutes but found nothing. Anxious, I remembered that I could review the footage. I set the start time of the playback to 12:10 p.m., the time I left. The surveillance video now showed the time at 12:12 p.m., with the 3 still lying on the ground in a stranded state. By 12:15 p.m. their expressions changed after the man next to Kathy received a phone call. At 12:17 p.m., the man ended the call, looking agitated, and it was unclear what he told Kathy and Leo afterward, but all 3 of them appeared excited. By 12:20 p.m., they had gradually left the villa. After watching the video, I was curious who had called the man and also what they had discussed. I regret once again not installing a sound pickup system in the villa. By the 20th day of the apocalypse, the power system had collapsed, turning the screens in the control room black and temporarily cutting off mobile phone signals. Meanwhile, the number of zombies outside our window had increased, moving faster and more agile than before. Over the past few days, in addition to the growing zombie population, I had also spotted several groups of survivors passing by, apparently out scavenging for supplies. Most of them were driving personal cars or trucks, though a few were on foot. Ultimately, their fates were broadly the same. Those on foot invariably ended up either turned into zombies or becoming their food. Those in vehicles were luckier, except for a few whose car windows were smashed by zombies who then bit their necks. The majority managed to escape, but where could they flee to under the current circumstances? By the 45th day of the apocalypse, a sudden hailstorm struck, drastically dropping the temperature. The hail, large as eggs, pounded heavily against the glass, making a loud pounding sound akin to the frantic beating of my heart. Alarmingly rapid, the balcony windows endured several impacts, thankfully only sustaining minor scratches without further damage. The hail continued for 3 hours before it ceased. Afterwards, my family and I meticulously checked the villa for any damage. In my previous life, many had died from shattered windows during such a hailstorm, many not just from zombie bites but also from fellow humans fighting over resources. Thus, I urged my family to be extra careful. A small oversight could be fatal. After our inspection, we all breathed a sigh of relief, finding no significant damage to the villa. The hailstorm had been as sudden and fierce as in my previous life, with tremendous force. Looking out the window afterwards, I saw several cars deformed from the impact, with most of their windows shattered by the hail, and even several zombies had been killed by the hail. Soon after the hail, the temperature dropped sharply, chilling us in our summer clothes. Fortunately, we had bought plenty of winter clothing and blankets earlier, which now proved very useful. At night, we warmed ourselves with an electric heater or heat packs, making the cold nights bearable. After the hailstorm, using a telescope, I was surprised to see that the number of zombies outside seemed to have reduced significantly. Perhaps many had been killed by the hail, I speculated. By the 50th day of the apocalypse, it indeed seemed that the number of zombies had substantially decreased. However, we faced a new problem, seemingly more troubling than the zombies. We appeared to be being watched. Initially, I hadn't noticed it, but one day, my sister, alarmed, told me that she had decided to paint a realistic picture that day and had taken some photos for reference. When she reviewed the photos, she shockingly noticed an eerie figure behind the curtain of the villa behind ours, looking towards us. She hurriedly showed me the photo she mentioned. The photo was a bit blurry due to the distance, and the villa in the background was not clear. However, upon zooming in, based on the rough outline, it was discernible that it was a man, distinct from the 2 we had seen on the surveillance before. This man was tall and well-built, clearly capable of taking on 4 of us. No, actually, he could possibly take on 10 if necessary. To address these alarming developments, our family convened an emergency meeting. After thorough discussion, it was decided that all four of us would take turns keeping watch, maintaining a 24-hour vigil. Several days of observation left every member of our family with a grim expression. The results were suffocating. It seemed that our situation was growing dire. We appeared to be surrounded. The four villas around us looked as if they had been occupied, and their inhabitants were covertly monitoring us. I felt like a tender lamb eyed by a pack of wolves that hadn't eaten in 3 days, watching us closely from the shadows, ready to pounce at any opportune moment, amidst the sudden panic. I recalled my previous suspicions about how Kathy and the others had managed to enter the villas. Could this current encirclement be related to that earlier incident? I shared my concerns with my family, still puzzled about how Kathy and her group had accessed those villas, just as they seemed to have taken over the surrounding ones this time. Could it be possible that they used a key to open the doors? My sister tentatively suggested, a key, but how would they have one? Could it be the property management? Perhaps the property management had kept a set of keys and they got them from there. I thought back carefully and it seemed highly likely, as the property management also handled the rental of our house. Under immense stress, we managed to get through the next 2 days safely. During these 2 days, the group didn't seem intent on harming us, just when we thought they wouldn't make a move that day either. Sounds came from the outermost gate of the villa late at night. The creaking of the door being jostled followed by intermittent hoarse swearing was exceptionally creepy in the quiet night. Being quite far, I couldn't make out their words clearly. Summoning my courage, I pressed my ear against the wall closest to the villa's exterior door and managed to overhear their conversation. Damn it, it won't open. They must have changed the lock cylinder. None of my master keys work, one grumbled. Stop fussing, see if you can pry it open, keep the noise down, don't attract the zombies, another whispered. Bob, it's still not working, maybe we should check the next house for goods. You idiot, what do you know? Big brother said this place has a big stash. If we get in, we won't go hungry. But, we can't pry it open. Forget it, we'll try again next time. Let's see if there's any supplies in the previous villas. I kept my ear against the wall, my heart pounding. Until I was sure they had left, I then let out a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. Turning around, I saw my father holding a mace, ready to face death, and my sister and trembling mother clutching a kitchen knife. I waved at them to lower their weapons and then gestured towards the stairs, indicating we should talk upstairs. Sis, what do we do? Once we reached the 3rd floor, my sister ran to me, clutching the hem of my shirt. Her face pale and tears streaking down her delicate cheeks. I felt sorry for my sister but didn't know how to respond. After a long silence, I managed to calm myself, wiped the tears from her eyes, and whispered soothingly, Nana, don't worry, they probably won't be able to easily break through the villa's door. They didn't succeed today, did they? But, she began, only to be interrupted by our father. It will be all right. He patted both me and my sister on the shoulders to comfort us. Supporting his mother by the arm, he shakily made his way back to the room, watching my parents and sobbing sister disappear into the distance. A sense of helplessness surged within me. If they really broke through the door, our family would be like fish on a chopping board, completely at their mercy. After all, there was no telling how many strong men were out there, and even one could be more than we could handle. Since that night, every night we could hear the sound of someone prying at the door, but they were careful not to be too loud or stay too long. This went on for over 10 days. By now, the outermost door of the villa must have been severely damaged. Although it was still holding up, it probably wouldn't last much longer. During these days, the weather changed again, with temperatures rising. The warmer air finally dispelled the chill, but not the despair in our hearts. 3 days later, the noise outside the villa was no longer full of curses, but unprecedented excitement. After so many days, we've finally pried the lock open. Keep it down, just open the damn door quickly, stop dawdling. But, Bob, it still won't open. You said it was pried open, how the hell can it not open now? Bob, I didn't expect there to be another doorstop. It's infuriating. If there's no loot inside, when we get back I'll have Tom rape and kill that Kathy woman first. After they left cursing, I felt drained, wiping the sweat from my cheeks. This time, I finally caught 2 pieces of useful information. First, Kathy had told them that there were substantial supplies in this villa. Second, their leader was named Tom. Tom, that name sounded familiar. I remembered, in my previous life, one of the guys who bought from me was named Tom. Before the apocalypse, Tom was a small-time street thug, using his family's money to do all sorts of evil, and even ended up in jail for a few years. if the Tom they mentioned was the Tom I knew. Then the woman had to be Kathy. On day 90 of the apocalypse, the temperature was slowly rising, and there were gradually more zombies than before. It struck me as odd. Did people turn into zombies and somehow unlock a hibernation trait? Otherwise, why were there almost no zombies seen when the temperatures were low? But these past few days, as the temperatures rose, zombies sprouted up like bamboo shoots after rain. However, an increase in zombies wasn't necessarily a bad thing for us. Since it got warmer, those people came less frequently and stayed for shorter periods, although their swearing increased. Hearing the intense shaking of the door frame, I knew they had come again, this time prepared, and this outer door might not hold. Indeed, as soon as I got downstairs and pressed my ear against the wall, I heard their cheers. "Bob, it's open, the door's open, well done, thanks, Bob, stop dawdling, get inside, Bob, there's another door inside, I'm so pissed. Let's go back, Bob, aren't we going to try the lock? Screw that, if we open it, it's either us getting bitten by zombies or our brothers starving to death. Let's go back and kill Kathy and her man for supplies. It seems they've left, but the villa's front gate is completely wrecked. Perhaps in a few days, they will manage to break through the remaining 2 doors as well. Is it my fate to survive only 3 months after the apocalypse? On the 95th day of the apocalypse. They haven't returned, but occasionally at night, I hear some whimpering sounds. By the time I wake up and listen closely, the sounds have already disappeared. Early in the morning of the 97th day, I thought I heard voices coming from beneath my villa. Startled, I quickly got out of bed to check. Looking out the window and aided by the moonlight, I saw 4 cars parked below, each with 1 or 2 dark figures inside. It was hard to see clearly even with a telescope due to the night, however. Why were all these cars parked under my villa? Were they plotting something? I saw a shadow in one of the cars looking my way, and I hastily put down the telescope and hid. "Bob, let's go, don't look anymore. There's probably nothing in this villa. Kathy might have deceived us just to survive longer, but I can't let this go. Forget it, Bob, she has paid the price for it." "Bob, just got a message from Tom. He found a big stash in the community up ahead, let's go." We shouldn't keep Tom waiting. After a while, I heard the sound of car engines starting, and then it seemed like they threw something out of the cars. The engine sounds gradually faded away. Still, I didn't dare make any rash moves, even though my villa's windows were covered with one-way thermal films which prevented anyone outside from seeing inside. I carefully drew the curtains to conceal myself. After a long wait, ensuring that there was no movement outside and that the devils had finally left, I took a deep breath and picked up the telescope again. In the northwest direction, I saw the fading lights of their 4 off-road vehicles, dim and eerie like ghostly fires by a grave. A sense of desolation washed over me. Now, it seems like our family might be the only living people left in this villa complex. On the morning of the 97th day, 5 hours after those people left, I noticed a sudden increase in the number of zombies around my house. I was puzzled until I used the telescope and spotted 2 human-like skulls and some remnants of torn clothing. I then understood that the sounds I heard the night before were those of them dumping bodies to distract the zombies and make their escape. Wait, staring through the telescope at the pieces of floral fabric and blue-striped material, if I'm not mistaken, they look just like the clothes Leo and Kathy wore a few days ago. Could those 2 skulls belong to them? At this moment, I'm not sure how I feel, whether it's a sense of justice served or sheer horror. I just don't know. On day 130 of the apocalypse, besides the zombies, I hadn't seen a single living soul pass by our villa. By day 160, we had fully adapted to life in this post-apocalyptic world. On day 180, something strange happened. Despite the high temperatures outside, the number of zombies seemed to be decreasing. Just as I was pondering this anomaly, I heard the sound of heavy vehicles rolling over the road, accompanied by several gunshots. A group of people had arrived, and they were armed. My family and I immediately became vigilant. We hid as best as we could and cautiously looked outside. Through the window, we saw a group of people dressed in green military uniforms, wearing protective helmets, and wrapped up tightly, capturing a large number of zombies. They were skilled and quickly managed to capture all the zombies outside our villa and lock them in a large metal cage. "Captain Chandler, Joey just got scratched," said a young man in an army green uniform, supporting another young man with visible scratch marks on his back. "Arrange for Dr. Lee to give him an antitoxin shot and then isolate him for 14 days. After we're sure he shows no sign of turning into a zombie, he can rejoin the team. Captain Chandler, we currently have no spare isolation cages in the camp, reported another. We listened to the noises outside, too scared to make a sound. Only when we were certain that they were a squad sent by the national government did we dare to offer help. The one called Joey was arranged to stay in the villa next to ours, along with the young man who had been helping him, named White, after thanking us. Captain Chandler instructed Dr. Lee to administer the antitoxin shots to my entire family. This anti-zombie virus vaccine was the latest development from the government. In my previous life, I had only survived for 3 months and had neither received the vaccine nor the National Rescue Team's aid, so I was not very familiar with the antitoxin. 30 minutes later, after ensuring we had no adverse reactions, Dr. Lee carefully instructed us. Do not touch water for the next 7 days, avoid spicy food, alcohol, seafood, and greasy or irritating foods. My family and I nodded repeatedly and took notes to ensure we wouldn't forget. After giving instructions to White, Captain Chandler decided to leave, mentioning that millions of our compatriots were still waiting for rescue. Hearing this, I felt a slight sting in my eyes. Our nation had indeed not abandoned us. Before leaving, Captain Chandler wanted to leave us some food and water, which we refused. 5 days later, we had become quite familiar with White and Joey. White was a lively young man, quite talkative, while Joey was more of a mature and steady boy next door type, speaking less but always with deliberation. From chatting with them, I learned that it was possible for those turned into zombies to recover, although the success rate was only 10%, with longer infection times reducing the likelihood of recovery. For someone like Joey, who had received an antitoxin shot, the chances of recovery after being infected again could be as high as 80%. This morning, as I looked out the window, I saw White loitering below our villa, where he had been hanging around for nearly 5 days. Since a sudden drop in temperature last night, I had given them 2 quilts, and since then, I had seen White's figure under our villa every day. Although there were no longer any zombies visible in our villa area, I still didn't like him wandering around below all the time. It wasn't very safe. Even with the antitoxin shot, being bitten by a zombie still carried risks as the treatment wasn't 100% effective. Whenever I mentioned this to him, White would just laugh and assure me that the zombies wouldn't get to him, as he would catch them before they could bite him. After some thought, he made sense, so from then on, whenever I saw him wandering around the villa, I chose to keep my mouth shut. After all, what could I say other than express my envy for his skills? I even began to suspect that White's daily presence under my villa was just to show off his martial prowess. 3 days later, White told me that Joey was in great condition, better than he had anticipated, with no signs or precursors of turning into a zombie. Therefore, he decided to take Joey back to their team the next day. Today, it turned out, he had come to bid us farewell. Before leaving, White, abandoning his usual jocular demeanor, sternly advised me not to step outside the villa after his departure. I smiled and agreed. Before they left, I prepared some food and water for them, wishing them a safe journey and hoping for an end to the virus soon. Half a year passed since White and his group left. During this period, the country made new progress in recovery. All zombies were captured, isolated, and treated collectively, giving humanity a glimpse of hope before dawn. Meanwhile, the power and water systems gradually resumed, and the internet was reconnected. Excited to finally go online, I turned on my mobile phone and connected to the internet, only to be greeted by news about a series of apocalypse-related murders. Curiously, I clicked on the news and saw several familiar faces. These were the people, including Bob and his group, who had been at my villa. And there was Tom from a past life. They were indeed together, filled with indignation and curiosity. I continued reading. After finishing the article, I was both outraged and frightened. The news reported that Bob, Tom, and their group, taking advantage of a lull when the zombies hibernated after a hailstorm, used keys scavenged from property management or hardware stores to break into communities and loot supplies. Moreover, they captured any survivors they encountered, using them as emergency rations, their hands stained with countless lives. They made the news because of their last operation in LZ community, coinciding with the arrival of a national rescue team, who ended up targeting Bob, Tom, and their group. All were killed. These beasts were less than pigs or dogs. Being shot was too kind for them, I thought angrily as I scanned the photos in the news again. Suddenly, my eyes locked onto one of the photos. I recognized this person. He was the one I had seen on the surveillance footage with Kathy and the others, named Jim. This man was actually Bob's brother. This answered the question that had puzzled me. The call Jim took in the villa that day must have been from his brother Bob, otherwise, why would Kathy and Leo have died while Jim was able to safely join Bob and his group? Year later, the situation nationwide had stabilized, and the country was now well prepared to handle sudden outbreaks of the zombie virus. I say this because, 5 months ago, the news reported a person bitten by a zombie who hid their condition, refused to report it, and vengefully injected their blood into bystanders, causing numerous new infections. Upon hearing this, the government immediately locked down the entire local city to prevent further spread of the virus. The police quickly apprehended the malicious spreader, and hospitals centralized treatment for the infected victims. Close contacts and secondary contacts were all isolated to monitor their conditions. The rest involved virus testing for all residents in the area. Since then, every city and even every village has established virus testing stations, conducting tests every Monday. Any anomalies prompt immediate lockdowns of cities or villages. The zombie virus is now far less fearsome than before, after another half-year, through the relentless efforts of the government and frontline workers. The entire nation has lifted its lockdown because everyone has been vaccinated with a new antivirus vaccine that effectively produces antibodies. Now, even if someone is bitten by a zombie, there is no need to worry about turning into one. 3 months have passed, and there have been no new zombie cases for 3 consecutive months. Moreover, the number of zombies during this period has rapidly decreased from 100 to 0. It's impressive how quickly the country has rebuilt itself. Cities that were once in ruins have swiftly returned to their former prosperity. Humanity has reverted to life as it was before the apocalypse. Finally, the 3-year-long zombie virus crisis has come to an end. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.